You know, recently a report came out about the economic impact of the gay community. As someone who's been an openly gay professional for over 35 years, I can tell you when I started that, well, no one was talking about our economic impact. We just wanted to make sure we weren't beaten up for going and pitching for business sometimes. But that's all changed. And here to talk about it is Dawn Ackerman, the president of the Golden Gate Business Association.
Thank you.
Do people still call it the Gay Chamber?
Some people do call it the Gay Chamber. We try to call it the LGBTQA Chamber.
Right.
Because we have a lot of allies that belong to the organization now as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at the GGBA Power Lunch a couple months ago, and what I noticed, besides an excellent program, I have to say, better than many networking lunches I ever go to, were the A's in the room.
Right.
Our allies. I was next to Steve Falk, who was the former publisher of the San Francisco Chronicle, now with the Press Democrat, head of our local soccer team. It was refreshing and wonderful. I got the sense that they weren't there because they felt they needed to be out of sense of political correctness, but they were there because they felt it was good business.
Absolutely. It is good business, and everybody's really starting to realize that. Especially over the last 15 years, I think the economics of the LGBT business movement per se has really taken hold and been something that we've been focusing on, because those of us involved really believe that as long as our businesses have great opportunities and we're growing, we can hire people and we can also help fight for equality in other areas.
Well, yeah, I mean, so there is still a political angle to openly gay business. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Talk to me about this economic impact study. What did it say?
Well, recently the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce published a report that says that the economic impact of LGBT businesses in America is $1.7 trillion.
Wow. With a T and an R.
With a T, $1.7 trillion. And I look at San Francisco, and we see just last year the San Francisco Business Times published the top 50 LGBT businesses here in the area that reported, right? There are a lot of LGBT businesses here, but of the ones that said, we are LGBT, and they made the top 50, just those 50 companies have produced over 2,700 jobs. So, and of the businesses in the United States that have decided to get certified as an LGBT business, they've created over 33,000 jobs. Wow. So imagine if every LGBT business came out.
I mean, it's big business. Yeah. Pretty soon, as they used to say, you start talking about real money.
That's correct.
Talk to me about what just happened in Seattle and the kind of you call it the gay business movement. I mean, GGBA may be the oldest, but now there are other sister and brother organizations all around the country. And how did they come together in Seattle, and what was that all about?
Sure. So the Western Business Alliance is a group of LGBT business organizations, specifically in the West. If you look at nationally, we have about 46 chambers in the nation, including the National Chamber in Washington, D.C. But in the West, we have 17 cities represented, 5 states, and 1 chamber out of Vancouver, British Columbia. We all came together in Seattle under the WBA Economic Summit was the name of it. And there were about 250 people there this year. We had panels about travel and how that's being affected by the Trump administration. We also talked about the economic impact. We had interviews with a lot of very successful LGBT businesses. And then the leaders of all of these business organizations spent 2 days talking about their organizations, what they're doing, how they're growing, and what they're doing to really create opportunities to develop their members and to help their businesses thrive.
Right. So, question for you. Which came first, you being a businesswoman or you being a lesbian businesswoman?
Actually, I became a businesswoman 20 years ago. I started my first business here in California, and I had only been out for about 4 years at that point, and I started doing the women networking, and I was so uncomfortable because inevitably—
Meaning the quote-unquote straight woman networking.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I would go to these events, and I wasn't like the rest of the women there, and I knew it. And they would ask questions, and they would say, well, what does your husband do? And then I said, well, I don't have a husband. I have a girlfriend. And you would see them kind of, and it made them a little bit uncomfortable. Now, granted, this was 20 years ago.
Right.
Right after that, about 15 years ago, I got involved with what is now the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and it completely changed my life. I've actually been on the board of that organization for 6 years. I was the president. I moved to San Francisco for personal reasons to be with my wife and my brother, and I have been on the board of the GGBA now for 5 years. And I love it. It's completely changed everything about the way I do business, and for me to go and network with other LGBT businesses is just, it's just this freeing opportunity. It's a real community. People root for you to succeed, and people refer business to each other, and they just really want to help you be a better business person. I actually met my business partner at a conference, and he works in Seattle and is involved in the Seattle Chamber. So it's been great.
We've been talking about just the business impact. Politically, you know, and I don't have the figures, it's just anecdotal, but we're within the first 100 days of the Trump administration, and a number of people say, well, the administration, no matter what one may think of President Trump personally, it's a pro-business administration. Does that necessarily follow then, or not follow, that all LGBT business people would be either for or against the Trump administration? I.e., do we have Trump supporters within the GGBA? And what does that mean? And how do we, in a time when politics often butts up against business interests, how does an organization like GGBA facilitate that dialogue?
Well, you know, I think we have to be bipartisan, so to speak, as a business organization. But we care about what happens to businesses, but we also care about what happens to the LGBT community. So when it comes to this administration, we know that I think we worry a little bit of the rights that we've already gained getting a setback. And that is kind of forefront in a lot of people's minds. But yes, from a business perspective, I think that it's sometimes very difficult to get the Democratic side of politics to focus on business and to think about the fact that the stronger we are as business owners, the more opportunities we have to give to our nonprofits to help with other parts of the LGBT movement for equality. So, well, you know, when the state of Massachusetts signed that LGBT businesses should be included in their contracting opportunities, it was actually a Republican governor who signed that bill. So we know that we need to be able to talk to both sides.
And I guess what I'm getting at, and maybe it's a question you can't or don't want to answer, is this administration sometimes making for some delicate conversations within GGBA membership?
I do see that a lot of people tend to say things like, under this administration, we may be running into some issues, but nobody really wants to say, you know, we hate the president, because that, you know, you don't want to offend anybody. And you don't, and because we are doing business also with a lot of allies, you know, it's delicate.
It's an interesting time. So GGBA, and I am correct, it is the oldest quote-unquote LGBT.
It's the first.
How do you interact with other organizations around the country and even around the world, i.e., are you a role model for other business groups outside the United States?
Yeah, we hope to be. We try. You know, really for us, it's the more we can do to impact our members, the more other chambers look to us and say, wow, this thing that you did was really great. You know, we should try to implement that too. There are a lot of really strong LGBT chambers in the country now. Seattle, for instance, has over 1,200 members, and then brand new Columbus, Ohio, just formed a chamber in the last 2 months.
In the last 2 months?
Yeah.
Do you find that interesting, that timing? I mean, it does coincide with a couple things we were talking about.
Well, I don't know how long it took them to get up and running. They're now being recognized. I do know that there has been one in Cleveland for the last several years. My company's actually a member of it. I do think that there's a lot of pushback against LGBT rights right now in Ohio, and so the fact that the Columbus Chamber did start is going to be really important for them.
Right. So looking forward over the next 3 or 4 years, what do you see the GGBA doing specifically to help its members economically, but also in the political realm? I know you don't really officially take political positions, but you know, you're a membership organization. You're here to represent your members.
Correct.
What do you see the GGBA doing over the next few years on those two fronts, economics and political?
Well, I think we want to take the example that we set 2 years ago with Super Bowl 50 when they were here in San Francisco. When it came to San Francisco, we worked with the Business Connect program to get LGBT businesses included for the first time in history.
Yeah, I was one of them. It was terrific.
So if we can continue to do that with other organizations, other types of industries that maybe have not historically included the LGBT business community, you know, we just did it with the California Public Utilities as well. We're definitely going to continue to advocate in that direction. discussion. We're also going to host the Western Business Alliance Economic Summit next year, and I think we're going to do it in conjunction with the Power Lunch to make the Power Lunch even more powerful, to be able to invite the leaders of all of the LGBT chambers in the West, and to really, you know, we honored one of our members that just got a $14 million contract on the Transbay Transit Center project, and she's a lesbian-owned.
This was the electric company.
Electric supply company, exactly. So to be able to, and Equator Coffees and Teas is also a member, and they just won Small Business of the Year for the SBA last year nationally. It was the first time an LGBT business has ever done that.
Wow.
So these are the kind of things that GGBA is here to do, and we're going to continue to do that.
Thanks so much, Dawn.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Dawn about the Golden Gate Business Association, known as GGBA. Next up, our conversation with the head of San Francisco's first professional soccer team playing at Kezar Stadium in Golden Gate Park, the San Francisco Deltas. We'll be right back.